They had an ad for the Super Bowl? What football fan has the patience for Pokemon? Next thing you're gonna sit there and tell me that Lady Gaga sang the Jigglypuff song from the anime. Let's stop being ridiculous, come on now. Hey, what's good, yo? Soul here, and welcome back to the story mode. So, as you can clearly see, yes, I am fully aware that they did go out of their way to air an entire ad for Pokemon's 30th anniversary for the Super Bowl. Possibly to the surprise of American males that might be watching me, I am one of the very few that doesn't care about football. I do, however, believe that it was very important to tune into certain aspects because there was a lot of very important messages throughout that show. Buddy killed it up there, and I don't really think I need to say much else. Aside from that though, they showcased an ad for Pokemon's 30th with a bunch of celebrities naming their favorite Pokemon. I got precisely what I expected out of that. The most boring favorite Pokemon choices I have ever seen outside of Luxray and Zygarde. While I could absolutely drone on about that, there is something much more vital that we need to talk about. For the last 2 days, there were two massive conversations that were cycling throughout my feed, both of them revolving around Pokemon. The first of which actually had to do with the Monster Hunter Stories demo. We'll get to that. And the second one having to do with this ad. Now, on surface level, nobody's gonna think too deep about Pokemon having an ad at the Super Bowl. Pokemon is easily one of the most massive franchises in the entire world. Everybody knows what Pokemon is. So nobody's batting an eye about them celebrating their 30th anniversary in a unique way for other people around the world by having celebrities that people know and love talk about their favorite Pokemon. Sure, why the hell not? It's when you dig right underneath that surface level of dirt where you realize why people are so annoyed about this. As you know, when it comes to massive showcases like, say, Summer Games Fest or the Game Awards and stuff like that, it costs a lot of money to air anything. Feel free to clear up any mistakes that I may make when talking about any financial stuff. For example though, when it comes to something like the Game Awards a couple of months ago, reports have shown that it is potentially up to $450,000 just to air a 1-minute trailer. Pricey, but it definitely makes sense considering the fact that the Game Awards and even Summer Games Fest is some of the best options we have in terms of video game announcements and major showcases. So considering the fact that those showcases are broadcasted to millions, yeah, they want to make sure that they are compensated for that. So, when you look at it that way, imagine something like the Super Bowl, one of the biggest broadcasted shows in the entire world. Historically, Super Bowl ads are one of the things that a lot of people actually look forward to because that's where a lot of directors, actors, and writers put their best foot forward to advertise whatever they're trying to advertise. Hell, people still talk about the Breaking Bad Popcorners ad to this day. There is always a lot, and I mean a lot of eyes on the Super Bowl, so they need to make sure that whatever they're putting out stays remembered. As far as I know, Pokemon has never done something like this before, and honestly, it kind of caught people off guard that they were doing anything for the Super Bowl. We knew that they obviously weren't going to showcase anything actively important when it comes to the games or even the TCG or anything like that because they would save that for Pokemon Day. So we didn't actually know what they were going to talk about at the Super Bowl. What they gave us was absolutely no shock. Familiar faces talking about some of their favorite Pokemon. Cool, cute, whatever. It's just a way for the general audience to be like, oh hey, my favorite celebrity likes that Pokemon too. Well, that's my also, who knows? It's just a way to get them to relate or something. Whatever, it makes sense. What doesn't make sense is the ad spot altogether. Bringing it back to financials, Super Bowl ads cost 8 to 10 million to air for like 30 seconds. This ad was 1 full minute, which means that it cost at minimum 16 million to potentially $20 million to air this ad. And that's not even considering the production cost to make said ad. If you didn't already know, I have a feeling that if you know what's been going on with Pokemon these last couple of years, a massive red flag just raised for you. To put it simply, it for certain 100% cost more to make and air this ad about celebrities talking about their favorite Pokemon than it did to actually make Pokemon Legends ZA, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, potentially even Pokemon Sword and Shield. That is well beyond the borderline of insanity. What do you mean? It costs more to air this 1-minute ad than it did to make an entire game. Why? I am more than fully aware that Pokemon, generally speaking, has more than enough money to just simply throw away on stuff like this just to advertise the series and make all that money back in absolutely no time at all. But to think of all of that money that they would rather spend on something like that than the games themselves is absolutely astonishing to me. Getting into league territory here, a lot of us are already good and well aware that the next set of games had a budget of at least 30 million. That's great, that's dandy, that's well over the budget of both Scarlet and Violet and even Legend ZA combined, so that's great. But could you imagine what that damn near 18 million extra could have probably done for the games? Oh my god. I'm sure that there are plenty of you guys out there thinking that I'm being whiny, I'm being a baby, and I'm being annoying about this. But like I've stated a couple of times now, we're likely to end up spending at minimum $80 for this game when it inevitably drops at the end of this year. I think it's only fair that they put a little bit more time, effort, and money into the project itself. We have been spending AAA title price on these games. It's only fair that they actively put AAA budget into development, right? I mean, come on. At minimum, it costs like 60 million to make a AAA title. So why is it that if we wanted to play these games, we were forced to shell out AAA title price for games that had the budget of an indie game? And with plenty of examples out there, even indie games have managed to outclass Pokemon in a lot of ways, so don't even get me started on that. But looking at this current situation that we have right now, can you really look me in the eye and tell me that I'm being dramatic and that this isn't disrespectful in a lot of ways to us? Obviously, I was joking earlier when I said that football fans don't care about Pokemon. I have friends that love football and Pokemon. But I feel like I have it on good authority to say that there are probably maybe a dime and a dozen people like that care about Pokemon nearly as much as somebody like me that actively plays the games, the things that set Pokemon off in the West to begin with. Most of the people watching that ad probably didn't even clock the fact that this series is turning 30 years old this year, because they don't care. They haven't played the games since Generation 1. And you can call me crazy and wrong for saying something like that, but it pretty much shows in the ad with a lot of these celebrities talking about their favorite Pokemon from Generation 1. Arcanine, Jigglypuff, Gengar. I love Gengar, but these are the most generic picks of all time. Not to be an ass about it, but this ad is pretty much a testament to what I'm talking about. In the same vein that the people that probably watched that ad probably thought it was kind of neat, brushed it off, and didn't think about it ever again afterwards, it's probably the exact same situation for these celebrities that they grabbed to talk about the franchise. They did it, they got the money, and they're probably never going to think about Pokemon again. They don't care about Generation 10. They don't care about what's actually going on with this franchise. They couldn't even tell you. But the people that deeply, deeply care about this franchise, that have been following it consistently for their entire lives, like you and I, we care about this franchise. We care about what happens to it. We care about what kind of budget it has, how much time and effort is put into the games, and what kind of products we end up getting and having to spend our money on. Halting myself from my emotional tangents, we still need to talk about the other major discussion that's been happening on my timelines, and that is regarding Monster Hunter Stories 3. Recently, Capcom decided to drop a massive demo for Monster Hunter Stories 3 on every major platform that the game is releasing on. When they first showed this game off a couple of months ago or a year ago or something like that, I wasn't really all that captivated by it because I didn't really care that much for the first Monster Hunter Stories game. I don't know what it was at the time, but it just didn't click with me then. Maybe if I try it again, I can definitely get a better feel for it, but I just never got around to that. But the more I saw of this game on my timeline from people playing the demo, the more I realized, wow, I heavily vibe with this art style. I adore it. The art style looks beautiful, and as an RPG, it was pretty much right up my alley. Now here's the thing, 90% of those posts that were spent gassing up Monster Hunter Stories 3 were also spent bashing Pokemon. And of course I was just like, oh, okay, well this kind of happens every single time there's even remotely another like semi-monster catcher, tamer, fighter game in relation to Pokemon. Pal World, Yokai Watch, Temtem, the other Monster Hunter Stories games. It's pretty much history at this point. It always happens. But almost off rip, when I decided to try out the demo for myself, when I saw the quality of the game, I immediately understood more than ever why people were so mad. All of the footage that you're seeing currently is recorded from my Switch 2, which I know probably isn't the strongest representation of what this game is probably capable of, considering the fact that it's also coming out on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and PC. This is not an ad, by the way. But I feel like playing it on Switch 2 would be the best way to have a more direct comparison as to what we were experiencing with like Legend ZA, for example. I don't know if it's the same situation on PlayStation or Xbox or anything like that, but I did see a couple of frame dips here and there, but nothing like immersion or completely game breaking so far. Other than that though, I can definitely see why people are making the comparisons that they are. For one thing, actual voice acting. Granted, I'm pretty sure most Monster Hunter games in general have voice acting, so this doesn't really come as a surprise or anything like that. But coming hot off the heels of Pokemon Legends EA, I have to admit it was, I don't know if I want to say refreshing or exhausting to see another game have good, solid voice acting and voice direction and have it just sound good and look natural with everything that's going on. But it's not like there's voice acting all the time. There are certain cutscenes and dialogue which call for voice acting, and then moments where you're just kind of wandering around talking to different members and stuff like that, where there is none that is necessary. It's just text, and that's perfectly fine. We don't need every single thing to be voice acted. This isn't Cyberpunk. It's unrealistic, and frankly, nobody expects that, especially of a turn-based RPG. It's totally fine to not have voice acting for every single NPC at every given moment. But this is just one of the many million cases in which it's more than proven that voice acting can work perfectly fine for turn-based RPGs. But I guess just seeing it here again made people really mad at Pokemon, which, fair. And aside from that, the animation. It's really nice for characters to not be extremely stiff when they're engaging in any form of conversation, especially in fully animated cutscenes where their movements are, you know, definitely, for lack of a better way to put it, animated, but it still looks really nice. It still looks really good and feels like it flows properly. But mostly in reality, when I say animation, I'm mostly referring to the battle animations. While I do love Pokemon, and I can understand to an extent as to why they don't always go all out when it comes to the animation for every battle that we engage in, they could definitely be doing a lot more, especially when there's a lot of games like XD Gale of Darkness and Colosseum all the way back on the GameCube that made a little bit more of an effort to animate these Pokemon consistently. But then you take a look at simply how dynamic the camera angles and the animations are for every single thing that happens in these battles in Monster Hunter Stories 3, and you know, I'm kind of hard pressed to not be annoyed. Did I say that right? Anyway, not only do they have a specific animation for pretty much every single base attack that you, your party member, or your Monstie does, but there's also an insane plethora of combo attacks and special attacks that you can do as well that all have unique animations. Are you kidding me? It's absolutely no wonder as to why Pokemon Twitter lost their minds over this. If there was a monochrome of how much care and effort they put into the animations here in Scarlet and Violet, we'd be looking at a completely different era of Pokemon right now. And even with all of this, I still have yet to mention the art direction and style that they went with that worked so beautifully. I mean, graphically speaking, Monster Hunter games are usually kind of crazy anyway, especially like Monster Hunter World and stuff like that. I don't know how they do it. But this style is just so fun and pretty that it's what drew me to get the demo in the first place. And I'm really glad that I did, because something tells me I'm probably not going to end up missing this when it comes out next month. All this glazing, and I still have yet to finish the demo, by the way. So, the long and short of it is, I get it. But then again, I've gotten it for a long time now and have been speaking on that for the last like 4 years. There is a level of disrespect that Pokemon video game players are just not really willing to put up with anymore. And when you have weirdly specific situations like this, where a Super Bowl ad costs more than a full game development, or people talking about a game that has nothing to do with Pokemon, pretty much outclassing it in a lot of different ways when it's not even out yet, that's a bad problem. Really bad. It's literally almost impossible nowadays to have a fully positive conversation in regards to Pokemon, because its flaws are so heavily ingrained in everything they do and showcase that you can't really ignore it. I talk about Pokemon the way I do for as long as I have because I love Pokemon. This series means so much to me, and I know a lot of other people feel the exact same way. It's why we have such critical discussions like this. You and me, we're still here having conversations like this because we care about Pokemon and we want better for it. What people don't understand is that I'm not a shill for Pokemon Company, for Nintendo, or anything like that. I will gladly always point out the flaws that I feel are prominent when it comes to these games because I care about them. My frustrations that I constantly voice come from a place of care. If I didn't care about the franchise, we wouldn't be talking about something like this. And I can only pray that one day they really sit down and look at all of these different conversations we have and really try to understand precisely why people are so upset about some of the very foolish decisions they go out of their way to make. The 30th anniversary is well and upon us. We will have to see what happens with that, but hey, you know what? Maybe that's just me. So that just about does it for this one. I usually try not to do like hefty, like fleeting news type videos like this one in regards to like recent events and happenings if I can avoid it. But I mean, maybe I should pick up on that. I don't know. When it comes to Pokemon, it's always usually the same situation, but regardless, you know, maybe I should do more stuff like this, but we've still got a lot of things to talk about before the penultimate Pokemon day is upon us. So we'll get to that when we get to that. But again, before that day comes, we're going to have one final massive discussion about what we are expecting for Pokemon Day 2026. So make sure to keep an eye on the community tab. That post is probably going to happen any day now. It might go up after this video goes up. We'll see what happens. But that being said, I'm passing the mic over in your direction, and I want you guys to tell me everything that you're thinking in the comment section below. Do you agree that the Super Bowl ad situation is not really a good look for Pokemon? It's kind of infuriating and a little bit annoying that they would go out of their way to shell out that much for a 1-minute ad as opposed to a full game that people were expected to care about and shell out actual money for? Or am I being crazy about that? And then in regards to Monster Hunter, are people being ridiculous comparing these two games? Does it actually not matter at all what's happening with Monster Hunter stories and we shouldn't even be looking at that? Or are people on the right track? Maybe this is something we should definitely heavily be paying attention to, and Pokemon really needs to step their game up. That's kind of a given, but I'm gonna ask anyway. Tell me everything that you guys are thinking in the comment section below, because you know for a fact that I am always gonna be down there with you guys. But with that, it does appear to be skedaddle o'clock, so I'm gonna go ahead and do just that. I'd like to thank you guys ever so much for watching. I truly do hope you enjoyed. Do me the greatest favor of dropping a like and a comment, and consider subscribing for more content just like this here. And with that, I'm gonzo. Thanks again, hope you enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Do me the greatest favor of taking good ass care, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!